Welcome back. Now it's time for us to take a look on what's happening in the world of politics. It's getting hotter and hotter by day with less than 80 days to go to the general election. And today let's talk about issues. Kalonzo Musyoka, we had the discussion yesterday. Little did we know that they were going to have a parliamentary group meeting, and they made a decision. That is 45 out of 50 legislators, aspirants and parliamentary group voting that Kalonzo Musyoka should rejoin Azimio la Umoja. We'll be taking a look at that, as well as yesterday IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati directed and said that IBC will not clear those who are battling, who have been impeached in the past, to vie for various political positions. How is that going to pan out? With me in studio, I have got two gentlemen. All of them are advocates of the High Court, starting with Wakili Warungu Mwangi. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning.
As well as Stephen Mogaka, who is also advocate of the High Court and parliamentary aspirant Mugirango West in Kisii County. Wakili, karibu sana.
Good morning.
They say Wakire Tata.
Wakira we sana.
All right. People of West Mugirango, take notes. All right, it's your chance. But anyway, so let's get into the details. It's now time for Kalonzo Musyoka to rejoin Azimio. Did perhaps 45 out of 50 so to speak, members and leaders of Wiper Party voting that Kalonzo should rejoin? What do you think? Is it now over for Kalonzo Musyoka to come back to Azimio, or there's still room for him to decide? Starting with you, Warungu.
I said the other time that Kalonzo Musyoka had four options. One, either to rid himself in a political oblivion, either to remain politically relevant after 2022, either to win or be in a winning coalition, or to lose if at all he decides to run alone. And if he decides to run alone, he'll lose, probably becomes irrelevant and be sent into political oblivion. So I think now Chinken are coming to lost for him, home for him, to make a decision. And from where I sit, I think these are very tactical and strategic retreat and return to Azimio. I think by one Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka launching his presidential bid, what he was doing is trying to increase his bargaining power in Azimio. Remember the running mate position. We normally say that you are a heartbeat away from becoming a president. Secondly, a deputy president is a presumed, we are calling him a presumed president. And remember, this particular person has what we say in Constitution, the security of a tenure. But remember, the seat that Kalonzo Musyoka was allocated as a chief cabinet secretary has no any security of tenure, any collateral in terms of the promise that was given. So, and you have seen that he has been pushing for the deed of Azimio to be amended, and the same to be included as part and parcel of the security of whatever he was promised. So I think he has been trying to increase and improve his bargaining in Azimio. But at the end of the day, of course, you'll have to come back to Azimio for one main reason. If Azimio wins and he becomes the chief cabinet secretary, he's likely to remain relevant between 2022 and 2027. And in between there, he can be able to rejuvenate his presidential aspiration, other than going alone and losing and probably being sent into political oblivion. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that. But Wakili Stephen, now, what's your take on that? It's now time for him to rejoin Raila Odinga?
Thank you, and good morning, viewers. One more. I don't think Kalonzo ever left Azimio. If you ask me, in politics, what you see is not what there is. I know that when Kalonzo could not qualify to be a deputy president, there was a possibility of a fallout or a walkout of the Ukambani vote.
Yes.
because we saw clips of people from Sekuru saying it is Kalonzo or none. So basically, I think this must be a larger Azimio strategy that was meant to contain the voters, so that Kalonzo would not literally get excited with the appointment he got from Azimio. He had to act tough and, pretend to have walked away. So that rather than the voters walking away if he accepted the appointment, he chose that he's the one to walk away. And indeed, you can see the strategy has worked, because it is now the voters bringing him back, so that it will not look like Kalonzo will be in Azimio without the voters. So I think the genius strategy that was employed to contain that region's vote and Kalonzo's lovers has borne fruits. And when they overwhelmingly vote to pull and push him back to Azimio, they have made Kalonzo their business, rather than how it would have played if Kalonzo jumped and said, "Nah, I'm chief prime minister," which does not exist in the constitution. It would have caused a lot of problems. And I think the Kalonzo voters are being realistic, that this is not a question of just running as a presidential candidate. They want to be in government. And the possibility of making it to government this time round, if he ran alone, I don't think it exists. And therefore, their push that they want to be part of the next government, I think is brilliant, is very well informed, very well calculated. And I think Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka should heed the call of the voters, because as politicians we say, "Oh, people have told me, people have told me to contest now." Yes, now the people have told Kalonzo it is back to Azimio, or the end of your life in politics.
Warungu, you know, when they say that, let me quote what Robert Mbui said here, one of the MPs, said that today we are sitting without him so that we make it clear that a party, we have structures and we can speak on behalf of the party just as the party leaders does. It sounds like a decision has been made, and Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has no choice.
And remember, it's good to clarify that legally Kalonzo Musyoka is still in Azimio.
Right.
Because you remember the way the Azimio deed of agreement was crafted, you can't leave the Azimio 6 months prior to the election and 3 months after the election. So the earliest that Kalonzo Musyoka should leave Azimio or any other party, constituent party, is in November. But you must understand that largely politics is about perception. So whatever the perception that Kalonzo has created on 16th there is that Azimio, people are living Azimio, and probably it could have added some political mileage to Deputy President, though Kalonzo Musyoka did not join Kenya Kwanza.
Yes.
Secondly, you know that Kalonzo does not want to be seen to have a desperate return to Azimio. And that is the most important things. Remember, Kalonzo Musyoka, living Azimio, perceptionally, had the biggest contributor of his hardliners and diehard. For one major particular purpose, that they wanted, if Kalonzo Musyoka could vie as a president, he could create that presidential euphoria in the Lower Eastern, and that presidential euphoria in the Lower Eastern, most of the politicians would ride on it and probably be able to recapture their seat.
Yes.
It's good to understand that it's only very few politicians in Kenya who have created their personal wave or personal euphoria. What they do is that they ride on the three leading politicians in Kenya, may it be Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, William Ruto, and probably Musalia Mudavadi, for them to capture their seats.
You know, Mogaka, you know what happens is that at this particular point, when you have 45 parliamentary group and aspirants out of 50, that's a big number. And we still have the two governors now backing him. We have got Charity Ngilu, who is in Azimio, as well as Professor Kivutha Kibwana. We only have Governor of Machakos, who is on the other side of Kenya Kwanza. But then, with this particular number, does Kalonzo still have any room left for him to turn around, or is in a straight jacket?
No, he's cornered. If indeed he meant that he wanted to walk away and run on his own, then obviously his goose is cooked. But as I say again, and I can't agree more with my learned friend, there is an existing Azimio agreement which does not allow Kalonzo to walk out in the manner he suggested that he is walking out. And prior to the naming of the Azimio running mate, actually Kalonzo was a Kenya Kwanza nominee for Azimio as running mate. Yes. Yeah, it was Kenya Kwanza who were drumming up, indeed looking like mourners weeping louder than the bereaved. They made it their business to prescribe and recommend and push and incite Kalonzo to insist that he either is running mate or he walks away. Basically because their strategy was that if they have Kalonzo as a mere running mate, then they have a field day in the mountain. Right. Yeah, and the strategists in Azimio knew that really
they were being set up.
They were being set up, and they took their break and made their correct decision. And I think their decision is going to pay off. And I know in the heart of hearts of Honorable Kalonzo, he knows that, you know, he lost the running mate position to a better candidate. And because Azimio has really to form the next government, Kalonzo cannot afford to be out of that government. If he dares, then his people will not want to be out of government. And you really need to understand that from the time Azimio unveiled their, or even before they unveiled their running mate candidate, Wiper candidates were busy promoting Baba as their presidential candidate. Right. They have printed materials saying they are in Azimio with Baba as their presidential candidate. Of course, they are running under Wiper in their various tickets. So to force these candidates or aspirants to unwind and now say, oh no, it is not Baba we are carrying as our presidential candidate, is Kalonzo, it is a disaster.
In fact, some of them said yesterday that it was going to be so expensive.
It is a disaster.
The posters, we have got the banners, the billboards, have the writing of R that they're supporting Raila Odinga.
Precisely.
So now that Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is now bolting out to run as a president, how are they going to make it? It's going to be expensive for them.
Yeah, it couldn't simply, it couldn't fly. And therefore, I can't agree more with them when they emphatically told Honorable Kalonzo that they are in Azimio. If he walks away, he's on his own. And really that is what it's going to be. But I think as soon as Honorable Kalonzo comes back, obviously the small adjustments of the agreement that he wants to entrench the appointment in the agreement, that's an easy thing to do, which as a lawyer I can tell you amounts to nothing, because that position does not exist in the Constitution, and therefore the insistence that put it in writing really is no value addition, or does not give him any more protection for that. And again, his team, the Wiper team, is suffering a lot of damage on the ground when their candidate is painted as a candidate who does not have a msimamo, and it is eroding whatever gains and traction the Wiper candidates may have got in their various positions they were running for. So it does help that Honorable Kalonzo saves face for the party and for his candidates, so that people get back to campaigns and bring an end to the theatres.
All right. Wakili Warungu, you know what happens in this particular situation? Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the Honorable, is out of the country, and the leaders sat and made a decision in his absentia. What does that show? That leaders can still sit and make a decision and tell you know what, this is the way to go. If not, for us, this is the direction we are taking. So if you want to run, you can imagine now he still wants to run for president. He'll be a president without foot soldiers.
Remember, we normally say, and on several accounts in this show, I have mentioned that politics is about three issues. One, strategy, numbers, and resources. So this also could be a joint agreed strategy between the Member of Parliament of Wiper and Kalonzo Musyoka, so that he cannot be seen to be...
Really? It can get to that point?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. It's on a higher note that you see it will be very outrageous for a Member of Parliament for Wiper to vote for him to return to Azimio in his present. But as part of the strategy, you remember even when the interviews for the running mate were being conducted by the eminent persons that were appointed by the Council for Azimio. On the days that the interviews were going on, there were reports that Kalonzo Musyoka, before he made his decision to appear before the panel, there were reports that he was to travel to Juba as a way of a strategy. So all these could be a strategy, so that when he returned back, he can be able to mention that even his Member of Parliament have all voted for him to return to Azimio. Yes. And these are the conditions that they have put forward. As my landed senior has mentioned, one, to have the deed of agreement amended, and of course the cabinet, chief cabinet secretary seat to be entrenched, which is not a big thing. Remember, we don't have such a post in the Constitution. Yes, but they want it to be entrenched in the Azimio Pact. Yeah, they want it entrenched. What can happen after Raila Odinga appoints him as a cabinet secretary? Probably he can have an executive order of now having the laws that he mentioned when he was appointed him entrenched in terms of coordinating government and the organizing government. This could amount to that position which was held by Honorable Tuju, the minister without portfolio. Not necessarily. It could amount to the one that is held by CS Dr. Matiang'i. Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you can carry on. Yes, so probably this could be a strategic move so that it cannot be seen coming from Kalonzo. It probably start from his Member of Parliament. Then by the time that he'll be now making an official return, it cannot be seen as a desperate comeback to Azimio. Well, Stephen, that sounds like a very strategic move as he's saying it, because at the end of the day he'll say, what under Mesem? I don't make, we have got party structures, we have got leaders, and we make decisions based on the recommendations made by the party officials. But then here we are, that position is still open. So perhaps Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, somebody said that he was playing a hard to get, and as a strategy again, perhaps. But then at the end of the day, he'll still make it back to Azimio. The question is, how is he going to contribute fully in the Azimio?
Thank you. You know, Victor, in politics, what matters is the ground. What the ground says is what every politician must align to. Right. And therefore, even for Kalonzo, he had, as I said earlier, one challenge. What does he tell the Ukambani people when he had all along been saying, we've written enough agreements with Baba, that after this round, Baba is out, I am the one, I am the one. And he had psyched his vote base to look like this time Kalonzo must run as a presidential candidate with Baba's support. Now, when that could not fly, and the question of running mate came in,
yes,
then really to Kalonzo supporters, that was not even negotiable. And that is why you saw Kalonzo was like, why am I being subjected to interviews? I mean, this thing is a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
What business is here? So he emboldened his vote base to get psyched that if we can't run as a presidential candidate, then at least we are guaranteed of the deputy. But dynamics in politics are, you know, very key. And for Azimio to win, really, you must deal with the big blocks of votes. And with the tremendous respect to Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, they have failed, I think, twice or thrice with Raila. And why have they failed? Because they did not have the mountain vote. Yeah. So if there was a winning formula, it is that missing vote that had to be brought in. And obviously, it was not Kalonzo to bring the mountain vote.
But did he see that?
Well, you know, in politics, people see what they choose to see. But as I said, ground nasema. Yeah, and if the ground is like in mountain, by the way, the mountain are drifted. Yeah, were it not for Mother is the one who has fished back the mountain to Azimio. It was minimal, and therefore it is important that the bigger picture be seen, not only within Azimio, but even for the country, because what this country needs is some assurance that the faces in leadership are faces that can inspire and give hope to Kenyans. Right. And I think this is the one that Azimio pulled, and everybody suddenly felt that they are very protected in Mother's hands. In fact, now the talk is not even about Baba, the talk is about Mother. And people in the country have found some sense of reassurance and hope that indeed this country can take a different trajectory. And this is what Honorable Kalonzo needs to appreciate, because he's the common face in politics that has made Kenyans very frustrated. I mean, the only new variable and factor in these new politics, in these 2022 politics, is a lady in State House, is a lady, you know, in control of the country. And these are the perspectives that have changed, that even people who had taken a decision for a different candidate before are finding new reasons to, you know, shift their thinking, shift their vote, and shift their loyalty. Because it is more about country and not about self. It is about country, and really this is why the Azimio factor.
Some of the leaders yesterday said that at this particular point, the country is even bigger than Wiper and Kalonzo himself. That is what the leaders said. Warungu, you know what happened? There is this position of Speaker of the National Assembly, the other arm of government. We have got legislature, executive, and judiciary. But then now that window is still open. Raila Odinga can still decide and say Kalonzo Musyoka should lead that arm of government, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having that position of chief minister.
You see, there are political promises that do not have what I would call insurance. Because you see also being as a Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senate purely depend on the numbers that certain coalition will be able to bring. Because remember, there will still be a voting process. So it's not as guaranteed as a pair of the president and the deputy. Because when you win, the non-inmate will be part of the presidency. There is security of tenure and all those things. Remember when Raila Odinga or William Ruto takes office, depending on who will win, it's very easy for them to make changes, even whether you are promised. But when you are an inmate, when you win with someone, you are there to stay, not unless you are impeached. That's the first thing. The second thing, whatever is disturbing Kalonzo Musyoka in the Raila campaign and the Raila presidency, is the lack of the visibility, recognition, the conspicuousy. You remember he enjoyed this one in 2013 and 2017.
Yeah.
The entry of the Mount Kenya as a block or as a factor in the Raila presidency in 2022 has eroded Kalonzo Musyoka visibility in the Raila presidency. So it's also that one, and of course the recognition. So
but that would sound as a very simple thing, I mean, to speak, but politically it's a big issue.
No, it's a big issue because it's come with a lot of things in terms of even how the campaign resources are being mobilized or directed. The issuance of the position, like you see now, he doesn't have the autonomy of having the running mate.
Yes.
In 2013 and 2017, it was very automatic. His recognition, if you look this year, Kalonzo Musyoka is not getting much of recognition in the Raila campaign compared to 2013 and 2017. So the entry of the Mount Kenya factor in the Raila campaign and the Raila presidency in 2022 has really complicated matter for one Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
Should this be something you should be worried about? I mean, recognition is a very key role then. I didn't know, politically speaking.
Yeah, it's a very big thing because when you are recognized, it's come with other things in terms of...
it's a full package.
It's a full package where the resources will be directed, both the campaign and even when you get power. And of course, you also become very important. Remember now, Kalonzo Musyoka is not an important factor in Raila Odinga campaign. This time compared to 2013 and 2017, when Raila Odinga in 2013 and 2017 had very limited choices.
Yes.
But for now, there are a lot of, in terms of even looking into the mountain. And of course, the mountain is bringing what we are calling a decisive vote.
Yes.
Compared to what Kalonzo Musyoka is bringing what we are calling substantive vote.
Well, world of a difference there. Mogaka, you know what? That position of he's running for president, that position is still intact. As at now, he's not denounced that position yet, with Andrew Sunkuli as his running mate. So there is a window. He can still say, I've dropped my bid and I'm heading back to Azimio, or I'm still going it all alone to the ballot. Paint for me a picture. One, if he decides to go it all alone until August 8th, or he decides to drop his bid and come back to Azimio. Those two scenarios. Give me a picture.
Thank you. The first option has already been taken, that he has unveiled his presidential candidate, and he has threatened to do the 202, I think it's the 202 or 207 thing.
207.
It was a 207 thing when he went with a bit of an orange, and then there was another orange on the other side. If he threatens to do that, then a few of his hardcore followers may decide they will vote for him anyway. What will then matter is what proportion of the Kenyan vote that will go towards a Kalonzo presidency, and whether that will impact on the 50+1 win requirement for a winning president. So I think in one of his strategic thinking, he was hoping that if he runs on his own, he will actually do a 207 kind of situation where he will force a runoff. And then that becomes a zero-sum game, because even if he forced a runoff, he can still not be deputy president. If that
because that slot is already taken by someone else.
So that is why that route becomes blind, and that is why his serious supporters will tell him that they would not want their region to be marginalized. If, however, he opts to cave in and say when he comes back, they play one time the Raila thing when they were receiving Baba, and they were saying, Baba, while you were away, we consulted Baba while you were away. So they can replay that clip to Kalonzo on his return from his strategic leave. They can play for him saying, party leader, Rais wetu, while you were away, we sat and agreed, and we said we must secure the position there, and you must go back. So he can play that, which works very well for perceptions, so that the Sekuru people say, we have decided that you are going back to Azimio. And that is very important, because if he otherwise walks back to Azimio kienyeji, he might walk without the voters.
You're right.
Yeah? And this management is very key, that it be seen as a people-driven comeback to Azimio.
Because the parliamentary group is a representative of the people. So you can imagine 45 out of 50, that's like a unanimous decision.
Because it, as he does that and creates the country in suspense, of course he whets the appetite of the Kenya Kwanza people, saying, no, don't go back, come, we are a better option. So all those possibilities are going to happen during this waiting moment. But at the end of the day, whatever decision Kalonzo makes, it has got to be made with pomp and color and involving people, so that he appears to be going to wherever he ultimately goes, going with the people. Otherwise, if he makes it a personal decision, it is likely to hurt, and he may find himself walking back with his handbag alone.
Okay. Warungu, there's this aspect of 50+1. Had he not, if he decided to say that I'm going all alone to the ballot, somebody would have argued that Kalonzo was playing that critical role of 50+1. So whoever is going, if we happen to go for a runoff, all right, and then Kalonzo was going to play that point of that secret card, that I'm on the shelves and the highest bidder will take me home.
Remember, most of the people arguing that he's trying to use the Katikati strategy of 2007, trying to, we are calling it a repeat strategy. But remember, the dynamics have changed. One, in 2007, we are using what we used to call the 1963 Constitution. Now we are using a 2010 Constitution. And the pass mark is 50+1. Remember, the other one used to be the simple majority. Secondly, remember, whatever he could be targeting after the runoff is the same thing that probably he's been given.
It's been promised right now.
So there will be no any other change. Not like 2007, where if you played a Katikati strategy, if someone wins, he can appoint you as the vice president by then. Remember, even if Raila Odinga picks him, in case we have a runoff, remember they'll still go as a pair, the Raila Kalua pair. So even if Kalonzo Musyoka will support them, the best he'll get is whatever he's been promised. So I think if that's the strategy he's using, then he's been misadvised, either from end or from other quarters. But I told you the biggest impediment to Kalonzo Musyoka getting to Azimio are the hardliner. Remember, the hardliner and the diehards play a very big role to this big politician. And probably they play what we call a personal interest role compared to the interest of the presidential candidate. Secondly, after Kalonzo Musyoka launched his bid and his running mate, remember, he's still on what I would call a sabbatical. So you even wonder who is
he actually said that he was going to take 1 week off.
No, he's still enjoying his sabbatical. So you really wonder who is this presidential candidate, less than 3 months. He's taking a sabbatical. So I think it's what I would call a strategic retreat. And what my senior has said is true. Probably he wants to make a comeback to Azimio, which is more strong. other than a desperate comeback.
All right. Let's wait and see how that will pan out, because as it stands right now, he's out of the country, and when he comes back, as you've all said, that it's a strategy. So, and in politics, you said it's about strategy, perception, numbers, and yes, what you said. But then now, gentlemen, let's talk about this issue of integrity. Chapter 6 is coming to haunt, and IBC is perhaps the final hammer on these people, and Chapter 6 is fully in play. That is according to Oloo Chebukati yesterday. He said that if you were impeached, then you have no chance to run for a particular seat. One of these person is Governor Sonko. Starting with you, Mogaka, can this be contested in court?
Oh yes, courts are open for any claim that anybody puts it in, and I know that there is a case already in court that sought to block Governor Sonko, and the court did give a temporary restraining order to IBC from clearing Sonko. Chapter 6 of this constitution has not found a place in Kenya. It has really not been operationalized in Kenya, sadly speaking. And one of the hopes the Azimio running mate gives by dint of also being the head of the constitutional affairs of this country is that we need our constitution protected, implemented, and enforced to the letter. Chapter 6 got lost from this country in 2013 when two top presidential candidates, rather one pair of presidential candidates were facing international criminal proceedings. And really that was the turning point for this country.
And perhaps many of the aspirants have been pegging on that.
Yes, that is where we lost.
The benchmark.
Yeah, that is where we lost Chapter 6.
Yes.
Because at the time, whether out of convenience or whatever, the courts and the country elevated the presumption of innocence and said, unless somebody is convicted and sentenced to a term exceeding 6 months, which is the reason for removal from elected position, then any allegation against anybody of whatever nature do not hold water. That is the position we held as a country in 2013.
Is impeachment equivalent to a conviction?
That is now even more stressful, because impeachment, of course, is provided for in the Constitution, but it is only shown as a ground for removal from office. Although now the law does not expressly say what the consequences of that is.
Yes.
You and I know, and that is where, as lawyers, make our money in moving various interpretations, persuading various interpretations.
What did I say?
That is where, yes, that is where our market is.
Okay.
Because there is one school of thought that would say that impeachment is not a bar for somebody contesting, because the law does not say so.
Yeah, it's still open.
The law does not say so. Yeah, and there are schools of lawyers who are called positivists who say, show me where the law has said if one is impeached, then they don't contest. Of course, there is no such law. But there is another philosophical school of thought that says that if impeachment can actually remove an elected person from office, then how dare you say that such person can actually be returned to office? The question is, so that is a philosophical interpretation and actual interpretation of the word impeachment when it comes to electioneering and clearing.
And that is why I asked you if an impeachment is an equivalent to a conviction. Warungu, here is what Chebukati said, that however, he said that aspirants who have been charged in court or convicted but have not exhausted appeal mechanisms will be allowed to contest. He further said that Sonko, actually this according to what happened, Sonko was impeached in December 2020 by the Nairobi County Assembly on 4 accounts. One of them is gross misconduct of the Constitution, abuse of office, misconduct, and crimes against national law. So we have got 2 situations here. If you've not exhausted all the appeal mechanisms, then you'll still be allowed to vie. So there's a variation here, which means you have not been convicted yet.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate. Whatever we are discussing today seems to be a booming business for the for the legal practitioners.
Mogaka said that's now your time for you to turn the stacks around.
Yeah. So, but on a more serious note, I think we need to differentiate between impeachment as a process and being charged in court through what we call a criminal justice system. Yes. Where there is an investigating officer, evidence is presented, you are given an opportunity to defend yourself, the prosecutor bring his witnesses, and of course when you are going through that process, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty plays. On the other hand, there is what we call an impeachment process, which most of the politicians who have been impeached earlier normally term it as a hunting process for either their competitors, others, if it's governors.
Some even turn it to be political.
Yeah, if it's governors, they claim they are members of county assemblies and of course they are senators. So we have to differentiate between those 2. Secondly, remember you have said that Chebukati mentioned about the appeals.
Yes.
Remember, some of these appeals will go even to the apex court, which is a Supreme Court. So for him, probably he's using the presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
Right.
Then we have to ask ourselves a very critical question, and I hope my senior will be able to answer it. Is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty applicable to the process of impeachment, where we have been impeached, but the same impeachment, you are contesting it in a court of law? Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you've been given that question.
Let me run with it. As I said, this is something that should be fattening my bank account. If I knew this is the discussion I was going to have. Yeah, but let's look at it this way. Impeachment is a political process provided by law to create an intervention to bring a political solution to some public affair management. And we have an article that permits our Senate to impeach the president if his conduct violates the Constitution. And of course, we have given the MCAs the powers to impeach the governors. Impeachment, therefore, is really a political process in dealing with people perceived to have carried themselves in a manner undesirable to the offices they hold. And of course, whoever has been impeached has a right to appeal, including to court, against that impeachment. And therefore, if one has appealed and exhausted that avenue, and they have not succeeded, then it is assumed that that impeachment hangs like Damocles' sword upon his head until to eternity. Yeah, and I am now dealing with the question of criminal proceedings, particularly criminal proceedings relating to abuse of office.
Yes.
If one is charged with criminal proceedings relating to abuse of an office that they have been elected or appointed to, and they get convicted and get sentenced to a period of 6 or more months, then obviously that is expressly provided in the law as a disqualification for one to vie for a particular office. But there is nowhere, as I've said earlier, that impeachment has been put as a disqualification for anybody to run for office. And what is happening on what Chebukati has said, of course, some of the matters are alive in court and we need not delve into them specifically. Yes. One would want to wonder, because Article 27 requires that when the law is applied, it should apply to everybody equally. It should not be applied differently to different people. So with that background then, remember that an MP of Kipipiri and who was a minister at some time got censored, which is equivalent to an impeachment, and got removed from whatever position that he was holding at that time. Did that censor bar that particular person from vying for elective position thereafter? Obviously not. And therefore, when the tire meets the road, these are some of the arguments that are going to be brought forth that, look, if even in heaven sinners get forgiven, however, red their sins appear to be. What is this that we are calling impeachment that anybody cannot get out of? Because compare it with even bankruptcy. Because a bankrupt person, and that is a ground of disqualification, does not qualify to run or hold office. But there is a way to unwind from that bankruptcy, and therefore, in my view, impeachment should not be fatal to anybody's political career, and we leave that for the brilliant minds. And
said that even in heaven, sinners should be forgiven. I hope, as a lawyer, you've advocated for me to be forgiven of my sins. Gentlemen, allow me to end that particular. If you see the rector on the floor, it means that things are thick. Wakili Warungu Mwangi as well as Stephen Mogaka, thank you so much for joining us. That's the only time that we had. We'll have this conversation sometimes next week, and we need to continue up to this particular point. Let's take a break. When we come back, there's still much more on this. Let's take a break.